Hi, my name is Matthew Connolly, career counselor here in the Office of Career Services. And today we're going to be going over career panels, what they are, as well as possible questions you can ask in order to gain as much information, insight, and knowledge from employers as you can. So you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a career panel? And a career panel is really just an in school opportunity for students to interact with professionals in a wide variety of career areas to learn about what it takes to prepare for a specific career and what it takes to be successful in the world of work in general. So typically, these are smaller groups with a moderator in more of a structured format where the moderator asks the employer questions and the employer shares his or her insight or knowledge. So, really, with these career panels, the goal is to gather as much information on your respective field as possible and just to learn about potential internship opportunities, current job trends, as well as job search strategies. So, when approaching a career panel, the number one tip that we recommend to all of our students is just listen to what the speakers are conveying. Obviously, you're there to absorb as much information and knowledge as you can to help yourself in your career search. So you want to listen with open ears and you want to take notes during the presentation because taking notes is going to help you formulate questions. And while you're doing these notes, this career panel is going to be structured in the way where the moderator is asking the employer questions to kind of jog and steer the conversation along. So you want to be listening to avoid asking similar questions to what the moderator has asked. And when the moderator does request questions from the audience, you obviously want to raise your hand and wait until you're selected. Even if this is a virtual format, you're going to want to do that. And when you are called on, you want to speak clearly. You want to be articulate and you want to try to avoid having to repeat yourself as much as possible. So speak clearly and loudly into the camera. And what you want to do when you're asking these questions, you never really want to ask a yes or no question. What you want to do is ask an open-ended question that encourages the panelists and the employer to speak more in depth about what you want to know. Like I said before, you're there to gain as much insight as you can to aid you in your search. So you want to pick their brain as much as possible. So asking an open-ended question will help you do that. There might be more than one panelist. So when you're asking the question, you want to specify to whom you'd like to address the question to. Never request that all the panelists respond to your question. There's going to be multiple students with multiple questions, so it needs to be a quick process. So be sure to write down everyone's name at the beginning so that you know who you're asking when you have a certain question for a particular panelist. And don't ask more than one question at a time. You obviously want to go in turn and be mindful that there may be other audience members who have questions for the panelists as well. And after the panelists have responded, thank them. You're there to learn and they're there to provide their wisdom and knowledge and they want to help you. And you just want to show them that you appreciate their time. You never know if any of them have particular internship opportunities available. So you want to be as cordial and polite as possible, just so that you make a good impression. And it's just the courteous thing to do. And if you'd like to ask a panelist a question after the program, just introduce yourself and ask the panelists if they have time to respond afterwards. So, those are some tips in approaching a career panel. So, like I mentioned, really it's a structured event where you can ask these questions, gain insight and knowledge on your respective field. So, when it comes to asking these questions, mentioned you want to ask open ended questions. So, some sample questions that you could ask panelists: why did you decide to enter the field? Asking this question is going to allow the panelists to go into a little bit of detail about their backstory. Obviously, everyone's backstory is different, but they'll be able to share their wisdom, insight, knowledge, and really their passion for the field and how they got there in the first place. So, another question that you could ask is, how did you find your position? So, asking this question is obviously going to allow them to elaborate on what job search techniques they might have used, who they might have networked with in order to find out about different positions, maybe even different job search websites or other avenues in finding these types of positions that you might not have been aware of before. So that's a really good question to ask. And another good question you can ask panelists is, what part of your job do you find the most challenging? So obviously, being a prospective student looking for an internship or a career, you don't have this experience yet. So you might not be aware of some of the challenges that come with the type of employment that you're looking for. So they'll be able to share their experience with you so you can go into this process prepared. Another great question to ask is, what part about your job do you enjoy most? So this is going to really open up the discussion for the perks of that respective industry or career you're trying to pursue. And in addition to that, you can also ask, what are your long range career plans? These panelists, they're not going to be in their position forever. Everyone in the career world, their aspirations and ambitions fluctuate and evolve over time. So you can really ask them, what are you looking to do long term? And where are you trying to land by using your current career to build this experience to go where you want to go? So, really, just to gain insight on potential trajectories of this career path or industry. Another great question you can ask is, how do you recommend I search for internships in this particular field? So, again, just like the how did you find your position question, this will allow the panelists to open up about how they found their roles, and different potential job search websites you can use. You can also ask where you could find more information about the field. Obviously, they're experienced in their field, but they might know others that might have even more knowledge about what you're trying to seek and learn. So that's a great question to ask. And you can also ask, like, what is your earning potential in the field, just so you gain a little bit more insight about salary questions, because those are types of questions that you don't typically ask during formal job or internship interviews. So this is good to ask ahead of time while you're not in that type of setting.
Okay, so other tips. Now that we're in a virtual limbo for the time being, you obviously want to consider some of the tips and techniques that we've suggested in our virtual interviewing videos that we've posted on our channel in the past. So, first and foremost, set up your space ahead of time. The last thing that you want is to be scrambling last minute to get your space set up for this career panel. So, really, you want to experiment with different lighting. Preferably, you'll want to find a window that brings out the best light, and you want a background that's not distracting. Ideally, a solid color wall will do nicely. So you just want to avoid any background distractions. And lastly, when you're talking to panelists, you want to be looking directly into the camera lens. So you don't want to be looking at yourself. You don't want to be looking at the panelists or your peers. You want to be looking directly into the camera when you're asking your questions to emulate that strong eye contact that you'd be giving off if you were in an in person panel or interview. So that's it from me. Those are career panels in a nutshell. An opportunity, again, just to help you explore your career path, see if it's what you want to do, and ask questions as well as network. If you have any questions following this video discussion, definitely reach out to our office. We can be reached at 508-531-1328 if you want to schedule an appointment for a resume, cover letter, interview prep, and a lot more. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.